What what is good, my people? We are live back with another live show on the forecast. Just coming on and talk to the people. I'm not gonna be on here real long, so I got the number up on the screen right now. The number is 804-601-4015. If anybody got anything to say, I want to hear from you. I want you to call in or whatever. Always make sure y'all subscribe to the backup channel, the Forecast Radio 24. That's in the description. That's where all the videos you're used to seeing from the forecast, that's where they are. I can't put them on this channel because they'll just take the whole channel down. And, I'll find a way to get the videos to the people. But anyway, I'm not gonna be long, so I'm gonna just get right into it, and hopefully the people will come in or whatever. But a lot of stuff been going on. We talked about the Ice Cube stuff last time, and of course my brother Ice Cube is standing his ground. So I got a shout out to that brother. That's how you handle it like a man in the face of backlash. And it exposes us as a people and our fear that we have really deep down inside, and really we don't think that we have enough because white supremacy has affected us to every fiber, right? Everything in our life has to do with white supremacy, and don't ever forget it. They can tell you, okay, you're being a victim. The past is the past, while they're enjoying the benefits of it, and we can't ever forget that. So shout out to the brother Ice Cube for not showing fear in the face of it. And another person who spoke out and is not showing fear, Bill Burr, when he went on Saturday Night Live, and all of those white women, of course, they're getting angry. They're calling them out because guess what? Bill Burr was off code, and Bill Burr kind of is off code a lot with their system, but of course, they can't handle it because, and we allow it. Everybody allows it. We let white women play both sides of the fence, right? When you talk about people of color, when you talk about minorities, somehow, even though they're the largest demographic, white women have slithered their way right on in there, right? They're simultaneously on one side saying stuff like, oh, affirmative action is racist, but then on the other side, they're benefiting the most from affirmative action, right? And it's little stuff that we need to know like this if we want to be so politically aware and go tell everybody to vote or die, right? When we really are voting on how we want to die, right? How do you want to die? You want to die with the person smiling at you and throwing you in prison, or what's going on, Didi? How you doing, sis? Like, how do you want to die? You want to die with the person smiling at you, throwing you in prison for the rest of your life, or do you want to get lynched? Right? That's what they're telling you: vote or die. But we aren't politically aware enough, or we just don't have enough confidence in ourselves to exclude ourselves from this quote unquote people of color. Because somehow, that's what's up, Didi. I'm glad. I'm glad. And anybody can call in because of course I'm not gonna be on here long, but I definitely wanted to come on and talk to the people. But as long as we riding with this quote unquote people of color, minority, we're fighting for minorities instead of just fighting for ourselves. Because if we aren't in a position to, right, get justice for a little kid who got murdered, right, like 7-year old Ayanna Smith. I'm sorry if I say her name wrong, but she was sleeping in her parents' house, and the police raided the house. Of course, the person they was looking for wasn't dead, wasn't there, and somehow a 7-year-old little girl winds up dead and nobody faces justice. So how in the hell are we going to stand up for quote unquote people of color if we can't get justice for a 7-year-old little black girl? But we are getting on each other about standing up for quote unquote the people of color. Now, what Bill Burr said was absolutely right. Right, white women, right, probably the masterminds of it all. They benefit maybe even the most from white supremacy, from slavery up until now. Yet, you know, a white woman can come in your face and cry and say, I watched Roots and I understand now. And we'll give her a hug. We'll give her a pass. She is your enemy. And I do a lot of shows about white women and all of the things that it comes with. And I'm surprised that a lot of those videos weren't taken down. But the truth is, they are the mothers of white supremacy. They birthed white supremacy. They, well, they don't do it. They get black women to raise the kids, but they instill the system of white supremacy. But time and time again, somehow we don't recognize that. We give them a pass. We feel sympathy, but they have never, ever felt sympathy for you. They understand that tears is their weapon. It's the most powerful weapon they have, right? Black men, black people, been scared to look white women in the eye. Not because she can beat you up, because if she sheds a tear, that may mean destruction for your whole city. And that's no exaggeration. And of course, we can go throughout decade, throughout century. What's going on, Al? And you can pick a time, you can pick an era, and I can tell you the destruction that they cause. I mean, you come from slavery just to see how wicked and evil they are, right? And just how, they treated black women. They were so jealous of black women. They were probably harsher than the white male. They have no sympathy, yet we have all the sympathy in the world for them. They are the ones who use your oppression every single time, and we fall right in line with them. And ironically, it should be white women who are the ones who are on the Democratic Party, but they're the ones who are voting in Trump. Even though black men will probably take the blame for it. And they'll probably target Ice Cube for not jumping on the bandwagon and doing what he's told. But you see, the moment they get called out, they know what to do, right? They immediately go on the attack. What's going on, K. Shaw? Definitely. They immediately call him out for getting off code. Now, again, on one breath, they'll tell you, it is all white males. It's all white males. But you do something to try to destroy the system and see what happens. And it's from the beginning of from feminism, right? And they try to take people like Ida B. Wells, who I would say is one of my idols. And they call her a feminist, but she had to call out all of these white women. Her work was literally calling out the lynch law. And we got to understand, because we obviously forgot what the lynch law is. But she was willing to lose everything to tell the truth. And how America has always used white women as its weapon, especially against black people. And somehow, over and over, we still open up with open arms. We welcome them with open arms. Right? Ida B. Wells broke it down how, in a lot of these cases, there were consensual sex with white women. And that's the thing that I don't really understand, especially with black men. Like, how many people were lynched for not even talking to a white woman just because she said it? And that's what makes no sense. And she broke it down how a lot of these white women would get caught by their husbands or whatever and just say a random black man, right? They didn't even point out anybody in particular, which was even more dangerous, because then the posse started rounding up black men anywhere. Now, the problem was it wasn't limited to black men. They were just harming the black community, period. Now, what she realized was, white women were just the excuse for them doing it. Really, it was the hatred that they had for them. Right? Tulsa, Oklahoma, of course, that was started because a white woman said a black man touched her on the elevator. And of course, her story can't be proven. And the thing about a lot of those stories, those white women recanted their stories, like after the destruction, of course. And of course, they suffered no consequences. But in a lot of those cases, they either recanted or they never really clearly identified anybody. But what she realized was they used white women as a way to wait, a way to use, a way to wage war against us economically. It was about destroying us from the top to the bottom. Do you think white men really cared enough about a particular white woman to destroy a whole city? Or do you think those white people were jealous because, those niggas got a piano in their house and I don't? Now, sometimes, a white woman wasn't even involved. Somebody would just say, oh, he looked at a white woman, he talked to a white woman, he touched a white woman. And I don't know how many stories that I can tell, because, I mean, I can't tell enough. Ida B. Wells has a whole book on it, right? And anybody should look up the Red Record. She literally has a whole book, and that was from the 1800s. Now, you know what they did to her when she started saying, well, a lot of the sex between black men and white women was consensual. Of course, she became enemy number one. They went in to burn down her printing press. They tried to kill her, but of course, she left town and never came back. But she continued to put the work in. Now, white women have known this the entire time. But do you think they said anything? No, they just benefited from all of it. Now all of a sudden they are trying to stand aside and say, well, it was all the white male who did this. I'm on your side. But they will always be on the team white supremacy because they benefit the most from it. You know, those white women, they couldn't even breastfeed their own children. They had to get black women to do it. But still, the very first race riot in North America, anyway, because it happened in Canada, was over a white woman because a preacher baptized a white woman. Right? So they went to go kill the preacher and they burnt his church down and they tried to run them out of town. And by the way, anybody can call in. The number right there on the screen, 804-601-4015. Because I'm not going to be on here long. I just wanted to come on and holler at the people. But it goes from generation to generation, right? And then we talk about Ida B. Wells, because then soon, a lot of those white women wanted to start voting, right? But actually, black men could vote, even though technically they could not vote, right? Because they would get murdered. But legally, they did have the right to vote for a long time in a lot of states, anyway. But what they did was use the fact that black men had the right to vote so that they could get the right to vote. They said, well, if a black person can get the right to vote, then a white woman damn sure better have the right to vote. Now, did they worry about, the black woman having the right to vote, who was the last person in America, by the way, to have the right to vote? It wasn't until the 60s. Yet now, just like every election, black women are seen as the difference makers, or especially for the Democratic Party. But now all of a sudden, it's the black male vote that they're talking about. And now that Ice Cube is speaking up, now they're saying, specific for things for black people, but we still always get, well, let's wait until later, right? Let's do things for everybody. And then we're going to do things for people of color. And of course, they're going to get on Ice Cube for talking about these people of color. And they're going to push talking points to make us think that the things that we were complaining about, somebody else told us to say it, right? Russia told us to say it. These are bots. When it's literally stuff that James Baldwin said in 1960, talking about how other groups are not on our side. Now, just like in the art of war, that's why white women are used around the time of integration. And by the way, white women were the biggest opposers to integration. It was mostly white women going to those schools, spitting on and throwing stuff at little black children, because they were the ones who were home taking their kids to work. I mean, taking their kids to school all day. So they were the ones out there doing it. But at the same time, they use white women as the counter to the black power movement of the 60s. Integration, we think that integration was something that we fought for, right? I would say, and I guess I would have to call it a theory, But integration was a counter move by our enemy. It wasn't something that we were particularly fighting for, right? We was fighting not to be murdered. We was fighting for equal funding, but we weren't necessarily fighting for integration. Integration was a weapon used against us. And when integration happened, so did, all of this people of color stuff. Now, all of a sudden, white women got certain benefits, right? And now all of the programs that they use put a black face on, right? They are the biggest beneficiary of it. There's not a program in America specifically for black men. And there may be a few that black men could get in on, but those programs are mostly for white women. That's how they can call them people of, well, a minority. But that's how they have been used all throughout time. Yet all throughout time, we accept it. And honestly, we should still be mad about stuff like Emmett Till, right? And it was another brother who, he ended up getting shot in the face. I forget his name, but it was a movie about it and everything. But of course, they had to make it, the white savior. But this brother was walking down the street minding his own business, right? And somebody said he looked at a white woman. So they walked up on him and shot him in the face with a shotgun. But that's the power of, their tears. And they have no problem wielding their power. Now we have to learn how to start, wielding our own power. What's going on, DP? And anybody could call in because I'm not really trying to rant that much. I'm not gonna be on here too long. The number is 804-601-4015. What's going on, brother Bakari? You can come on, or you can call. I would bring you on. I'm not gonna be on that long though. But you could call up though. But we have to start understanding strategies because the enemy does think 3 steps ahead. Right? They've been programming us to hate ourselves and to love them for hundreds of years. In the 1600s, right? If you had a black wife, right? No woman had to pay taxes, right? And before it was America. But in the colony, especially in like Virginia, women didn't have to pay taxes, but the taxes did apply to black women, 16 and up. So if you married a black woman, you had to pay extra taxes. If you married a white woman, you didn't. Right? And of course, in 1662, they passed a law where any children that a black woman had or an enslaved woman, they would be enslaved for life in perpetuity. Now we got to understand what white supremacy is. They still believe in that perpetuity. That means forever, and we're still here. We're still the ones making their system go. and they tell you to go back to Africa and all that stuff. And if we really did, they'd be over there in 10 years to do the same thing that they did before. That's why we have to realize we are all we got, and we have to learn how to protect what we build. Now, I'm going to keep saying it because we don't realize it. We are the only group that pulled ourselves up by our bootstraps. But what happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma? A white woman said something and the whole city was destroyed. What happened in Rosewood, Florida? A white woman said something because she cheated on her husband, and the whole city was destroyed. Right? There was a black man who got out of jail. I forget the cases, so many of them. But, even 40 years later, they finally let this brother out of jail, even though it was no really evidence that he should be there. And of course, it was nothing but racist sheriffs and judges and all that somewhere in Florida. But this woman, 40 years later, still on the stand with fake tears about something that had no possibility of ever happening. Because, when we look at white women, we don't necessarily think psychopath or sociopath. But your enemy has painted that picture in your mind for a reason. Because now you don't mind letting them in, right? So they can slice you, and you're still smiling in their face, thinking they're on your side. And they're still smiling back in yours, letting you think that. But a system of white supremacy doesn't last for so long without some kind of cooperation. And let the last election show you. Let the Barack Obama election show you. Because they always say, Barack Obama would have never got elected without the white vote. Well, which election did Barack Obama win the white vote in? Especially, well, tell me which vote did he do well with white women in? Which election? Obama never won the white vote. He did horrible with white women. Yet Donald Trump did great with white women. And there's a reason for that. They're showing you who they are. Now, that means somebody is lying because they're the same ones out here protesting, right? And apologizing and telling you they're sorry for their ancestors. But that means somebody got to be lying. Somebody is saying one thing and doing another. Because while they're telling you, they're sorry, if you step out of line, right, they'll be quick to put you right back in. They come in and take over your movements because they know you'll let them. They use your fuel for their movement because they know that you let them. And that's black men and black women. Of course, they're going to use us. Because, without us, what would they have had? And that's the truth. Because when you look at the beginning of America, their civilization, their, settlements were destroyed time and time again. Right? What became America was also almost destroyed until the natives had to show them how to eat berries and fish instead of eat each other. But when you come from cold, dark climates, some similar to what Nick Cannon said, right? Science will tell you that it has a psychological effect on how you live. And the thing is, we're taking up a lot of their traits, a lot of their culture, and a lot of their beefs. Now, I'm not saying that in the black community we don't have issues to work out, especially with black men and black women. But on both sides, we're taking our issues from a perspective of white supremacy. We're looking through the eyes of a white supremacist at each other. But that's because we have to rediscover who we are. But at least, with the internet, you can change the game, and we can talk to each other as opposed to them controlling who you see, hear, and all of that. So of course, to keep the appearance of being a great country so they can go in and destroy other countries, they have to appear as though they're doing something for you. And it's been like that since around World War II. And by the way, Germany is giving Jewish people more reparations, right, just to deal with COVID. But that's a whole nother topic. But America is doing programs for minorities so they never have to get you out of that position that you're in. Because white supremacy is defined by black inferiority. If they raise you up, then what the hell are they? And the opposite of white supremacy is black power. So it has to be the number one terrorist threat to America. And while they do use bombs and guns and any other thing that you can imagine, especially deception, the number one tool and probably the most effective tool has always been white women. So of course, when somebody calls them out, they're triggered. But they even take over the quote unquote woke movement. They take over everything. But they use that against us to keep us in the position that we are in. Like I said, if anybody want to call in, the number right there on the screen, 804-601-4015. I don't want to be too much longer, so y'all call in or go pretty soon. But we have to start understanding the strategies. That's why I need to start coming on here as much as possible. But we can see it in decade after decade, century after century, and we still fall for the same games. And we're blinded because we want to be blinded, because we don't think that we have enough in ourselves to stand up on our own too. But we have done it and we have no other choice. The only difference is we have the illusion of inclusion. And now, just because Ice Cube doesn't want to, fall in line, of course he's an easy target because every election we say, well, we just have to put our stuff to the side for the betterment of America. And we've always been about the betterment of quote unquote America. But now we putting ourselves to the side so much. When are we ever going to start speaking up for ourselves? Right? Because they're telling Ice Cube, well, Donald Trump is just dangerous. We got to get him out of office. Well, before that, Barack Obama is running. We got to get him in office. Well, before that, George Bush is in office. We got to get him out. Well, guess what? There was about 8 or 9 presidents who were slave owners in America. I mean, I can't tell you one who wasn't racist in America. So why do we have to get one person out or one person in particular? Unless that's a person that you literally birthed and raised and is about your agenda. But when you're at that point, you wouldn't even need to be involved in their political games because would have raised yourself up to that point where you have your own politics. You're doing your own political thing. And it don't matter what the enemy does because they can't harm you. But we have always had this mentality where we welcome everybody with open arms to our own detriment. And that's something that we definitely have to learn how to undo. And another thing that Bill Burr was talking about too was you know um was gay people. I guess they had something to say about it too. And they are in another vein as that. And no, I don't have any particular sympathy for you know that because you know why? Most of the slave owners were gay. Like, do you know what they did to a rebellious person or somebody who even talked like me? Right? They literally just send a message to everybody. They stake them to the ground and stripped his clothes off, and then the gay slave owner would rape him in front of everybody, and then have another slave do it, rape him right in front of everybody, and then even call other gay white dudes to come over and do that because he was rebellious, because he didn't want to be a slave. Right? What they did to little children, right? Not just little girls, but little boys. A lot of those slave owners were gay. So you cannot use that argument and say that we are anything in particular because you know what? They are gay black people. But guess what? They don't see your sexuality. They see your skin color because that's the system that we live in, right? I'm not saying other things don't exist, but we are living in a system of white supremacy. And a gay white man can kill you and get away with it just like a straight white man can. Yet they can be labeled minority, people of color. These are literally political games. And we're sitting here saying, well, it doesn't matter that they literally told you they aren't going to do anything for you. We just got to get Donald Trump out of office worldwide because Joe Biden did all that stuff for 40 years now. But I guess he changed in 2006 because Obama was the cleanest Negro that he ever saw. But these are the type of games that they play. These are the kind of things that they do. And they cannot admit to the system of white supremacy. That's why they can't do anything about reparations. So they try to compare it, right? They call us anti this, anti Semitic, homophobic, all of that stuff to try to equate us with that. Well, we never had a system of slavery against gay people. We had never had a system of slavery against Jewish people, but those people have practiced that against us. So speaking out about it or not standing up for them and only focusing on ourselves ain't necessarily a bad thing. In fact, that's the only thing that we can do. Because at the end of the day, you keep waiting, you're going to be waiting for that 200 years that Lyndon B. Johnson said he'd have you waiting for. Still voting Democrat. But, it is what it is. Until we learn, yeah, we definitely have. So all of us suffer from Stockholm syndrome to a degree, but some of us suffer from it more than others. But we got to get that people of color stuff out of our head, because that's how white women can come in and take over the quote unquote woke movement. That's how the fight for justice and all of that turns into a gay movement, because we identify with this people of color of thing, because we don't have enough confidence to stand on our own. Right? We don't have to play the oppression Olympics, because you can never find a system like this. Right? There's never been a system that passed laws that America has passed, right? To enslave children or to stop us from reading. Right? J. Edgar Hoover said he wanted to stop the rise of the Black Messiah. And J. Edgar Hoover was a gay man. So why are we fighting for a struggle when we can't even fight for our own? You got to get in a position where you can stand up on your own to fight for something else. And the thing that J. Edgar Hoover can never stop is the Black Messiah is Black unity, us being on code, right? In the moment that we decided, okay, we've had enough, and we decided that we won't be stopped, then the system will be destroyed. But it's just about organizing ourselves. We've always had the willpower, we've always had the fight, but it's about organizing ourselves and staying on a code. And never forget, it's not like Europeans just was always friendly with each other and had each other's backs. No, it took for them to have the Berlin Conference to stop fighting each other to focus on enslaving us. We need to have our own sort of Berlin Conference on how to liberate ourselves. But it starts with having the courage to stand up on your own and not needing other groups to stand up with you. And it's about not apologizing for doing it. It's about speaking the truth and not apologizing, because I can guarantee you they will not apologize to you. But anybody got something to say, you can call in. I'm about to wrap it up. The number is 804-601-4015. I'm pretty sure the line working, but we just have to keep our eyes open for all of this stuff, and we can't let people shame us for speaking proud of ourselves and for calling other people out for what they have done. Because, when George Washington married his wife, she was the one that had all the slaves, not him. Even though he had slaves, but his wife had hundreds of slaves. Well, over 100. And, by the time she was about to die, she gave up all her slaves because she was swearing to God that they was poisoning her. And I hope they were. And that's something that we've always used, right? They've always used nature, right? They could never figure out if they were poisoning them or not, so their fear always said we was rebelling. It was always a conspiracy. They punished us. And that's when white women started to realize that you know I can make this male slave, because they like to talk about rape culture, but what white women won't ever talk about is the real rape culture in America, right? And we could talk about the rape culture that happened to black women all day long. They raped us so much that it literally had an effect on our DNA. But what they don't talk about is, in American history, white women have probably raped black men more so than the other way around. Because a lot of times black men is not taking that risk, not taking that chance, but a white woman will tell you, if you don't do A, B, and C, I'm gonna say you raped me. I'm gonna scream. I'm gonna cry. But what they won't tell you is they probably have committed this rape culture more than anyone else, because when they got pregnant, they would tell other slaves to impregnate a black woman, to go and rape her by force or whatever, just so she could be pregnant at the same time, so she could be a mother to her baby instead of her own. And this is the psychology or the mindset that we think changed in what year? Like, I can't even tell you what year. In the 80s? Well, they bombed, the government literally bombed people in the 80s. So what, in the 90s? Well, that was the crack epidemic, or the effects of it. So I guess everything changed in 2008. Or, maybe they never have. We got to start realizing that. But, I appreciate all of y'all, man, for real. But, like I said, I'm trying to give it a minute and let y'all call in and see if the lines work or whatever. I'm not sure if they do, but I definitely appreciate all of y'all for coming through, man. I'm gonna come back on soon. But we can't let anybody shame us for being who we are. Can't let anybody tell us what we're saying is wrong. And I'm not telling you anything different than George Washington told America, and they put his face on the mountain. So, it is what it is, man. I appreciate everybody for coming through, man. Much love to all of y'all. Make sure y'all subscribe to the Forecast Radio 24 is in the description. I put a video up the other day. That's where you'll get the videos that you're used to on the Forecast. So, I can't put them on here. Make sure y'all subscribe to that. I'm working on, making some kind of mailing list or doing something so I can give y'all the videos that they take down, right? And a lot of these videos I focus on white women because people don't talk about it, because I guess people are scared to talk about white women, because we don't associate them with the power, but they probably cause more bloodshed than anybody, right? Whole cities have been burned down because of the words of white women. So, Bill Burr was definitely not lying about that. But, it is what it is, man. So, we'll be back soon. And make sure y'all subscribe to this channel, subscribe to the other channel. Much love, man. And as always, man, we have got to start standing for something, or we're gonna keep falling for anything.